Maria moved quietly through the wide halls of the mansion, her footsteps light on the polished floor. Every night, after the rich family went to sleep, she began her work. Dusting, sweeping, mopping, these were the rhythms of her life. To the millionaire who owned the house, she was invisible. Just another cleaning lady. But Maria carried her own story: long hours, a small apartment, and a little girl waiting at home who asked, "Mama, when will you come back?" She always smiled for her daughter, but deep inside, Maria felt the weight of struggle. Her life was survival, nothing more. On this night, the mansion was quiet. The clocks ticked, the curtains swayed slightly in the breeze, and Maria wiped her tired hands on her apron. She entered the library, her favorite room. The air smelled of old books and polished wood. The walls were covered with shelves reaching up toward the high ceiling. To Maria, it felt like a secret world. She dusted carefully, her hands moving slowly over the leather covers. As she bent down to wipe the lower shelves, her cloth brushed against something unusual. A small drawer, built into the bottom of the bookshelf, almost hidden. Maria blinked. She had worked in this house for months but had never noticed it before. Curious, she tugged gently. The drawer didn't move. She pulled harder, and with a faint creak, it slid open. Inside, tucked away under a stack of old papers, was a bundle of journals. Her heart quickened. Why would the millionaire keep these locked away? She looked around the empty room, the silence pressing on her ears. With shaky hands, she lifted one of the journals. The leather cover was worn, the pages yellowed. The writing inside was bold, sharp strokes of ink, filled with dates, numbers, and names. At first, Maria thought it was only business records. But then she saw words that made her freeze. Bought the land. Families refused to leave. Forced them out. She read more, her breath catching with every line. Bribed the official. Covered the evidence. No one will ever know. Maria's fingers trembled as she turned the pages. Each entry was worse than the last. Plans of betrayal, lies told to partners, schemes that destroyed lives. These were not the writings of a successful man. These were confessions of someone who had built an empire from cruelty. The millionaire wasn't just rich, he was dangerous. Maria pressed the journal to her chest. Her mind raced. If these secrets ever came out, his entire empire would fall. But if anyone found out she had read them, what would happen to her? She was just a cleaning lady. No one would believe her. Still, something inside her stirred. All her life, she had been ignored, stepped over, treated as if her worth was nothing. But here, in her hands, was proof that the powerful man she worked for was not untouchable. For the first time, Maria felt the balance shift. A sound broke her thoughts. The floor creaked upstairs. She panicked, shoving the journal back into the drawer. But before she could close it, footsteps echoed in the hall. Heavy, steady, coming closer. Her chest pounded as she quickly wiped the shelf, pretending to work. The library door opened. The millionaire himself stepped in. He wore a silk robe, his expression sharp even in the dim light. His eyes swept the room before settling on her. "What are you doing here so late?" he asked, his voice calm but heavy with suspicion. Maria forced a smile, her throat dry. "Cleaning, sir. Just the library." He walked closer, his gaze narrowing. For a terrifying moment, she thought he could see the truth written on her face. She gripped her cloth tighter, praying her shaking hands were not visible. The millionaire looked at the shelves, then at the small drawer where the journals rested. His eyes lingered there, and Maria's stomach turned cold. Finally, he looked back at her. "Make sure everything is spotless," he said slowly. "This room holds important things." Maria nodded quickly. "Yes, sir." He studied her for another second, then turned and left. The door clicked shut behind him, but Maria could still hear her heartbeat thundering in her ears. When the room was silent again, she sank into the chair, her knees weak. She glanced at the drawer, her mind a storm of fear and curiosity. What had she just discovered? What danger had she stepped into? One thing was clear: these journals were more than papers. They were secrets powerful enough to change everything. And Maria, the invisible cleaning lady, was now the only one who knew. As she gathered her tools and left the library that night, her eyes carried a fire they had never held before. She was no longer just surviving. She had stumbled upon something far greater, something that could destroy a millionaire. And deep in her heart, Maria whispered to herself, "One day, these journals will speak. And when they do, the world will finally see the truth." The night after Maria's first discovery felt longer than usual. She could not sleep, her mind circling around the hidden journals. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw those sharp words written in the millionaire's hand: force them out, bribe the official, covered the evidence. It was like hearing his voice confessing his own sins. By the time evening came and she returned to the mansion for work, Maria's body was tired, but her curiosity was stronger. She told herself she should leave it alone, that she was only a cleaning lady and this was none of her business. But deep inside, another voice whispered, "You know too much now. You can't walk away." The mansion was quiet again, the millionaire's family asleep. Maria's broom moved across the floor, but her eyes kept drifting to the library door. Finally, unable to resist, she slipped inside. The room welcomed her with its silence and shadows. She moved quickly to the drawer and pulled it open. The journals were still there, untouched. Her heart beat fast as she took out another one. She opened it in the middle, and her eyes widened immediately. This journal wasn't just about old crimes, it was about current plans. Meeting tomorrow. Deal finalized. Competitor will fall. Hundreds will lose jobs, but profit will rise. No one can stop me. Maria's breath caught. She flipped through more pages. There were names of politicians, companies, and even people she vaguely recognized from the news. Every word felt like poison. The truth was undeniable. The millionaire wasn't only guilty of his past. He was still planning destruction, still using power to crush those weaker than him. A cold shiver ran through her spine. She realized she wasn't just holding secrets. She was holding a weapon. Suddenly, footsteps echoed in the hall. Maria froze. The sound was closer this time, steady, heavy. Her hands shook as she tried to close the journal and return it to the drawer. But before she could, the library door opened. The millionaire stepped inside. Maria's heart nearly stopped. The journal was still in her hands. "Maria," his voice cut through the silence, calm but sharp, "why are you here again?" She swallowed hard, forcing her voice to stay steady. "Just finishing the cleaning, sir." The shelves were still dusty. His eyes narrowed. He stepped closer, his gaze moving from her face to her trembling hands. "You seem nervous." Maria quickly lowered the cloth over the journal, hiding it as if she was wiping. "Just tired, sir," she whispered. The millionaire studied her for a long moment. His presence filled the room, cold and powerful. "This library holds many things," he said slowly. "Things not meant for everyone's eyes. You understand that, don't you?" "Yes, sir," Maria answered, her throat tight. He stepped even closer, his face now inches from hers. His voice dropped to a whisper. "If anyone ever looked where they shouldn't, it would be very dangerous for them." Maria forced herself not to flinch. "I understand, sir." After a long silence, the millionaire finally turned away. "Good. Then finish your work and leave." He walked out, the door closing softly behind him. Maria's knees nearly gave way. She pressed her back against the shelves, her breathing shaky. He had almost caught her. He had almost seen the journal in her hands. Slowly, she returned it to the drawer, making sure it looked untouched. Then she left the library, her heart still pounding. That night, when she reached home, she couldn't hold back anymore. She opened her small personal diary, the one she used to write her thoughts, and began copying the words she remembered from the millionaire's journal. Line by line, she wrote them down, her handwriting shaky but determined. "This is my proof," she whispered to herself. "If anything happens to me, these pages will tell the truth." She hid her diary under her mattress, kissed her sleeping daughter on the forehead, and sat by the window in silence. The city lights flickered outside. Somewhere in a high tower, the millionaire slept peacefully, believing his secrets were safe. But Maria knew better. She had seen the truth with her own eyes. And even though fear burned inside her, a spark of courage lit her heart. She was no longer just a cleaning lady. She was the keeper of secrets that could bring a powerful man to his knees. But danger was growing. Because the millionaire's eyes had already begun to watch her more closely. And if he discovered what she knew, Maria understood one thing very clearly: he would not forgive her. The next nights at the mansion became a test of courage for Maria. Every time she entered the library, her heart raced faster. The drawer, the journals, the secrets, they called to her like a forbidden voice. She tried to resist, but she could not. The truth inside those pages was too heavy to leave hidden. So Maria began her own silent battle. Each night, after finishing her work, She quietly opened the drawer and took out a journal. She never dared to carry it home, but she read quickly, memorizing the important lines. Then, when she returned to her small apartment, she copied everything into her own diary. Page after page, her diary grew with words that did not belong to her but could destroy the man she worked for. It was dangerous. Every time she turned a page, she felt the millionaire's shadow in the room. Every time the floor creaked upstairs, she thought he would appear and catch her red-handed. Yet she did not stop. One night, she read an entry that made her breath catch. Factory deal signed. Families will be evicted by the end of the month. Resistance expected, but police already paid. Maria's eyes burned with tears. She thought of her own childhood, when her family had lost their home because of greedy men like him. She thought of her daughter, and how easily the powerful could crush the powerless. She whispered to herself, how many lives has he broken? How many people are suffering because of him? Her anger gave her strength. She copied the lines into her memory, determined to write them later. But just as she closed the journal, a soft sound startled her. The creak of a door. Maria's blood turned cold. She turned slowly, expecting to see the millionaire. But it wasn't him. In the doorway stood his teenage son, Ethan. His eyes were sharp, curious, almost too aware for his age. He looked at her, then at the drawer, then back at her trembling hands. Maria froze. She wanted to explain, to hide, to run, but no words came. Ethan stepped closer, lowering his voice. You're not supposed to be reading that. Maria's lips parted, but no sound came. Her whole body shook. If the boy told his father, it would all be over. But then Ethan said something she did not expect. I know what's in there. Maria blinked. You know. He nodded. I've seen them before. My father doesn't know I found them, but I did. I know the kind of man he is. His voice trembled, anger hidden beneath it. And I hate it. Maria stared at him in shock. She had always seen Ethan as just a quiet boy in the mansion, distant and untouchable. But now she realized, he too carried a burden. Why are you telling me this? She whispered. Ethan glanced at the door, then back at her. Because you need to be careful. If he finds out you've touched those journals, he won't forgive you. He'll destroy you, just like he's destroyed others. Maria's chest tightened. Then why don't you stop him? You're his son. Pain flashed in Ethan's eyes. Do you think he listens to me? To anyone? He only listens to himself. His voice grew softer. But maybe you can do something. You're braver than you look. Maria swallowed hard. She wanted to deny it, to tell him he was wrong. But deep inside, she knew there was no turning back. She had already stepped into this battle, and she couldn't escape now. Ethan gave her one last look. Be careful, he whispered. Then he turned and slipped back into the shadows, leaving Maria trembling in the silence of the library. That night, when she returned home, she opened her diary and began to write furiously, as if every word carried her heartbeat. She copied the entries she had read, her hands moving fast, her tears dropping onto the paper. Her daughter stirred in bed and whispered sleepily, Mama, why are you crying? Maria wiped her face quickly and smiled. I'm not crying, baby. I'm just writing. But inside, she knew the truth. She wasn't just writing. She was building a weapon, line by line, page by page. And now, she was not alone. Someone inside the millionaire's own family had seen the darkness too. Someone who, like her, wanted him stopped. The silent battle had begun. And Maria understood that the deeper she went, the more dangerous it would become. Still, she whispered into the night, clutching her diary close, for my daughter. For the people his hurt. I will not stop. The mansion grew colder in the days that followed, not because of the weather, but because of the way the millionaire began to watch Maria. His eyes, sharp and heavy, followed her wherever she went. When she dusted the shelves, he appeared at the door. When she polished the silver, his reflection was in the glass. He spoke little, but his silence carried weight. Maria felt it deep in her chest. He suspected something. She tried to act normal. She worked slower, careful not to rush toward the library. She avoided touching the drawer during hours when he might pass by. But the tension grew each night, pressing down on her shoulders like a storm waiting to break. One evening, as she cleaned the long dining table, the millionaire stepped in without warning. His suit was perfect, his tie dark as night, and his expression unreadable. "Maria," he said slowly, "how long have you worked here?" She kept her eyes on the cloth in her hands. "Almost 3 years, sir." "And in all that time," his voice sharpened, "have you ever gone into rooms you shouldn't?" Her heart pounded. She forced a small smile. "No, sir. I only clean where I'm told." He leaned closer, his gaze like a knife. "You've never opened anything? Never looked into things that aren't yours?" Maria swallowed hard. "No, sir." For a long moment, he studied her face, as if searching for the truth behind her words. Then, to her relief, he pulled back. But the way his lips tightened told her he wasn't convinced. That night, Maria avoided the library completely. She went home with her hands shaking, clutching her small bag against her chest. When she reached her apartment, she went straight to her diary under the mattress. She held it close, whispering, he knows something." Her daughter stirred, sitting up sleepily. "Mama, are you scared?" Maria forced a smile, brushing the child's hair. "No, baby. Mama's just tired." But inside, fear grew like fire. The next day, something unexpected happened. As Maria dusted the hallway near the library, she noticed the drawer was slightly open. Her heart skipped. The journals were gone. Panic rushed through her. Had he moved them? Did he know she had touched them? Footsteps echoed, and she quickly turned away, pretending to polish a vase. The millionaire walked past, his eyes locking on her. His lips curved in a faint smile that felt more dangerous than any anger. That evening, when she was about to leave, he called her into his office. The room was darker than usual, shadows stretching across the floor. On the desk lay one of the journals, open. "Maria," he said softly, "you're a loyal worker, aren't you?" She nodded quickly. "Yes, sir." He tapped the journal with his finger. "These books are very private. They contain important details of my business. If the wrong person were to see them, it could cause problems. Do you understand?" Maria forced her voice to stay steady. "Yes, sir." He leaned back, folding his hands. "Good. Because loyalty is everything. If I ever found out someone betrayed me, I would not forgive them. Not ever." The words cut deep, sharp as blades. Maria bowed her head. "I understand, sir." When she finally left the mansion that night, her legs nearly gave out. The suspicion in his voice was clear. He didn't just guess, he knew something. Maybe not everything, but enough to watch her closely. At home, Maria opened her diary again, her hands trembling. She read the words she had copied, and for the first time, she wondered if keeping them was too dangerous. But then she saw her daughter's sleeping face, peaceful and innocent, and her fear turned into determination. She whispered, "I can't stop now. If I give up, he wins. And if he wins, more lives will be broken." The next day at the mansion, Ethan appeared in the hallway, his eyes sharp with worry. He pulled Maria aside when no one was looking. "He moved the journals," Ethan whispered. "He suspects you." Maria's chest tightened. "What should I do?" Ethan's jaw clenched. "Be careful. Don't go near them for now. But keep your notes safe. Someday soon, we'll need them." Maria nodded, fear and courage mixing inside her. The silent battle was no longer hidden. The millionaire's suspicion had grown like fire, and Maria knew it was only a matter of time before he tested her loyalty again. But she also knew something else. She wasn't fighting alone anymore. Ethan was on her side, and together, they carried the truth that could bring the powerful man down. The war had not yet begun, but the battlefield was already set. And Maria understood, if she lost, it wouldn't just cost her job. It could cost her life. Maria's nights no longer felt safe. Even inside her small apartment, she felt the millionaire's shadow everywhere. Each creak of the floor, each knock on the door, made her think someone had come for her. She began to check the window twice before sleeping, her diary always hidden under the mattress. But secrets have a way of demanding to be found. One evening, Maria returned home after a long shift, exhausted and heavy-eyed. Her daughter was playing with a neighbor's child, laughing freely. For a moment, Maria felt peace. But when she entered her room, her heart froze. The mattress was slightly moved. The corner lifted just enough for her to notice. Her hands shook as she pulled it up. The diary was gone. "No," Maria whispered, her breath shallow. She searched the whole room, under the bed, in the drawer, in the closet, but it was nowhere. Her chest tightened with panic. That diary was her lifeline, her only proof, her weapon. Without it, she was defenseless. Just then, the door creaked. Her daughter stepped in, holding the diary in her small hands. "Mama, I found this when I was looking for my doll. I wanted to see what you were writing." Relief hit Maria, followed by fear. She quickly took the diary and hugged her daughter. "Sweetheart, you must never touch this again, do you understand?" Her daughter frowned. "Why, Mama? It's just words." Maria kissed her forehead, whispering, "Because these words are dangerous." That night, Maria could not sleep. She wrapped the diary in cloth and hid it in a small box high on the shelf. But even then, her mind kept whispering, "What if someone else finds it? What if he already knows?" The next day at the mansion, things grew worse. The millionaire's eyes followed her more closely than ever. At dinner, when Maria poured his wine, he said calmly, "You look tired, Maria. Sleepless nights?" Her hand almost slipped, but she forced a smile. "Just long days, sir." He smirked, sipping slowly. "Careful. Tired people make mistakes. And mistakes can be costly." Her stomach churned. Did he know? Was he only waiting for her to admit it? Later that night, when she was cleaning the library, Ethan appeared again. His face was pale, his voice urgent. "Maria, something's wrong. My father told me he's testing the staff. He suspects someone is hiding something. If he finds out it's you." Maria clenched the cloth in her hands. "He already knows. I can see it in his eyes." Ethan lowered his voice. "Then you must be ready. Keep your diary safe. If anything happens to you, it has to survive. It's the only proof." Maria's hands trembled. "But what if he finds it first?" Ethan hesitated, then whispered, "Then I'll help you hide it somewhere even he can't reach." Before Maria could answer, the door of the library swung open. The millionaire walked in, his sharp gaze landing on both of them. "What are you two whispering about?" he asked softly, his tone far more dangerous than if he had shouted. Maria's breath caught. Ethan quickly replied, "I was just asking Maria to polish the desk properly. It looked dusty." The millionaire's eyes moved between them, studying their faces. Then, slowly, he nodded. "Good. I expect perfection in this house. Nothing less." He walked out again, but Maria could feel it. He was closer than ever to discovering her secret. That night, when she returned home, Maria sat at the table, staring at the diary. She felt trapped. If she kept it, she risked everything. If she destroyed it, the truth would be lost forever. Her daughter touched her hand gently. "Mama, why are you so sad?" Maria forced a smile, hugging her. "Because sometimes, baby, telling the truth is the hardest thing in the world." Tears filled her eyes, but she held her daughter tightly, whispering, "I will protect you. No matter what happens." The breaking point had arrived. Maria could feel it. The walls around her were closing in, the millionaire's suspicion was sharpening, and her secret was growing heavier every day. Something was about to happen. Something that would decide whether her courage was enough, or whether she would be destroyed like all the others who had crossed him. And as she blew out the small candle by her bed, Maria knew one thing for certain: she had no way back. The fight would soon leave the shadows and step into the light. The storm finally came. For weeks, Maria had lived with fear in her chest, hiding her diary like it was a second heartbeat. But she knew the secret could not stay hidden forever. The millionaire's eyes had grown sharper, his questions colder, his smile more dangerous. He was hunting for the truth, and Maria could feel time slipping through her fingers. One evening, as thunder rolled outside the mansion, Maria walked into the library to finish her usual work. But something was different. The drawer was locked, the shelves polished, and on the desk lay one of the journals, placed carefully as if waiting. Her chest tightened. The millionaire stepped out of the shadows. His suit was black, his eyes sharper than knives. He didn't smile this time. "Maria," he said softly, "you've been a loyal worker. But lately, I feel a change in you." He tapped the open journal with one finger. "Tell me, have you seen these?" Maria's hand shook, but she forced herself to answer. "No, sir. I only clean what I'm told." His gaze pierced her like fire. "Lies." Before she could breathe, Ethan stepped into the room. "Father, stop." His voice was steady, braver than Maria had ever heard. "You can't keep this hidden forever." The millionaire turned, anger flashing. "Ethan, This doesn't concern you. Yes, it does, Ethan shot back. I know what you've done. I've seen the journals. And she's seen them too. She knows everything. Maria's breath caught. The room froze. The words had been spoken, and there was no going back. The millionaire's face darkened, fury rising. He looked at Maria, his voice low and dangerous. So it's true. You've betrayed me. Maria's legs trembled, but she stood tall. For the first time, she didn't bow her head. No, sir. I didn't betray you. You betrayed everyone. The people you destroyed, the families you crushed. You betrayed them long before I ever touched your books. His eyes narrowed. Do you know what happens to people who stand against me? Maria's voice shook, but her courage burned. Yes. But do you know what happens when the truth finally comes out? Silence hung heavy in the air. The thunder outside cracked, echoing her words. Ethan stepped forward, holding something in his hands. Maria's diary. Maria's heart stopped. Ethan. He looked at her gently. It's safe. Don't worry. I made copies. He turned to his father, his voice stronger now. If anything happens to Maria, if you try to silence her, the truth will spread. I'll make sure everyone sees it. The millionaire's face twisted with rage. His own son, standing against him. His own worker, defying him. But this time, the power in the room was different. For the first time, the fear belonged to him. Maria stepped forward, her voice quiet but firm. You can destroy me, sir. You can fire me, you can try to silence me. But you cannot stop the truth. Not anymore. The storm outside roared louder, rain slamming against the windows. The millionaire stood frozen, his pride cracking under the weight of their defiance. For the first time, he realized he was trapped, not by chains, but by words. His own words, written in the journals, now copied and safe in Maria's hands. Maria turned to Ethan. We need to leave. Tonight. Ethan nodded, slipping the diary back to her. Together, they walked out of the library, leaving the millionaire alone in the shadows of his empire. Maria's hands shook as she clutched the diary close, but her heart felt lighter than ever. She had carried fear for too long. Now she carried something stronger, courage, truth, and hope. When she reached home, her daughter ran to her, hugging her tightly. Maria held her close, whispering, It's over, baby. Mama kept her promise. We're safe now. But deep inside, Maria knew the battle wasn't just about her safety. It was about justice. And one day, the millionaire would face the world with no shadows left to hide in. For now, though, Maria allowed herself a small smile. She was no longer just a cleaning lady. She was a protector, a fighter, a voice for the truth. And in the quiet of that stormy night, Maria knew she had won the hardest battle of all, the battle to stand tall when everything tried to keep her on her knees.